Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar around the Level 5 Diploma in Teaching and Skills. My name is Chris. I'm a Business Development Manager here at NCFE. My colleague Janet King, who's a subject specialist, is going to talk you through the qualification today and go through things in a little bit more detail. So the purpose of today's webinar is to discover our Level 5 Diploma Teaching, a comprehensive programme tailored to enhance teaching skills and advance careers in education. Explore the structure, the modules and the new features of this Level 5 Diploma. We will be taking some questions. If we could please ask that any questions are put into the chat, myself and Janet will pick those questions up at the end of the presentation. I'll hang fire for a second. We've got a couple more people joining. Just give that a couple of seconds before I race ahead. Because I do talk fast. Give it just one more minute for a few more people to join. Can we go on to the next slide, please, Molly? Thank you. I'll just cover this again. We've had a few more people join and I was racing ahead. The purpose of today's webinar is to discover in more detail our Level 5 Diploma in Teaching and Education. It's a comprehensive programme tailored to enhance teaching skills and advance careers in education. We'll explore the structure, modules and unique features of the Level 5 Diploma. We'll take any questions in a dedicated session at the end. And again, if I can just ask any of those questions to put into the chat, we can pick those up at the end, if that's okay, please. Next slide, please, Molly. Thank you. Thank you. So since the Level 5 Diploma in Education and Training was released in 2014, the sector has seen many changes and teaching as a discipline has moved on. The teaching landscape has greatly changed and evolved. Subject specialisms, support needs, technology, remote learning is quite a different landscape at the moment. So in response to these concerns, we've now created this new provision. We've worked with representatives from other awarding organisations, employers, funding regulators and Ofqual to create this new qualification. And just to be clear, this is not an update of an old existing qual, this is a brand new qualification. Janet, can I pass over to you to go into things in a little bit more detail, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Chris, and thank you to everybody who's taken the time out to join us on this webinar. You know, before we move on and we start looking at the different changes, I just want to appreciate and acknowledge that there has been so much happening in the world of education, and I know we're used to fast pace and we're used to change, but it seems to have been that right from the early years right through now, as we're seeing to Level 5, there have been changes and reforms are happening and all sorts of things. So we do understand that this is a challenging time, as well as being mad exam season for us all. It's also a very challenging time for everybody who's involved in teaching and learning. So appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you about this particular change and this particular development. So we have worked very closely to engage with the education and training framework, and you'll be able to look at that in a lot more detail if you wanted to by going onto the ETF website, and you'll be able to see that, and you'll be able to see when you look at the qualification how we have applied our qualification through the structure and the content in such a way. So there's so many things that have been going on. We have a new education and training foundation framework, as I've said. We're responding to the skills white paper and the skills technical education and what's happening out there in terms of equity, and making sure that we maintain that balance. As you know, NCFE is very committed, passionate and dedicated to teaching and learning in the further education space. And so this qualification is one that we are extremely passionate about and want to make sure that we get it right, to make sure that our learners are able to experience the best possible educational opportunities that they deserve. So it is one that we are extremely proud of. So it's been developed by a working group in response to sector feedback, and awarding organisations are required to update these offerings in line with the ETF framework for September 24. Now, when the other level 5 will be withdrawn, what's important to note is that you can see this qualification now. You can see it live on our website. It's available right now. And whilst, you know, in the run of things and the business as usual side of things that's happening within your educational calendars and so on, it is unlikely that you'll do anything with this qualification until September 2024. What this opportunity does is give you the chance to look through the qualification, look at the structure, look at the content, look at the framework that's been an influencing and impactful factor here, and look at how that might work for you. Ask any questions and have some dedicated support to be able to work through the qualification together with somebody from NCFE. So the new level 5 diploma in teaching, further education and skills is the one that you're looking out for. And that is on our website, as I say, live for you to look at. And if you had any questions about the structure and content following this webinar and having discussed it perhaps with other people within your organisations, and you wanted to come back to be able to have something a little bit more tailor-made, a little bit more bespoke, then we are here to help you and support you with that journey. Also realise that for a lot of you, you're becoming towards the end of a very well, they're always challenging, aren't they? Every term's challenging, but you're coming towards the end of an academic year. So also aware that, you know, you might want to do that soon, or you might want to wait to the beginning of the next academic term, or you may well want to do something as part of any staff development that you've got in between now and say the end of July, for example, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so as we move on to the next slide, we can have a look through what the qualification is designed to do. So the objective of the qualification is, as we know, in equity with previous qualifications of this nature, it's to confirm occupational competence in a teaching role within the workplace. And what this means in relation to further education is getting to know those students in FE, and those amongst us that are working in FE now, working with that age range, will know the needs of those students, the diversity of those students, the different levels and so on. So it's as much about getting to know the students and getting to know the sector as it is to be able to hone in on teaching and learning skills and to be able to bring those two together to be able, as I say, to give those students the best possible opportunities and experiences that they can have. So there's a lot within the qualification that explores the sector, that explores the needs and the diverse needs of students that you are likely to be teaching in further education, and the way that further education works, and then of course honing in using your own subject knowledge to be able to then develop the teaching and learning skills that are the toolkit of the teacher within that environment. I think sometimes that we lose sight of that. I think sometimes, and when you think of teaching, you can be teaching in so many different teaching and learning environments. You could be teaching in a prison environment, for example, and it's so important to therefore know about the needs of those individuals, how they may respond, how they may react. And this is just the opportunity within this qualification to think about those students that are in the FE sector. So confirming occupational competence in a teaching role within the workplace, and that workplace is being considered as FE. It offers breadth and depth of study, incorporating a key core of knowledge. So this is about bringing the skills that might be skills from a subject knowledge, a theoretical area, or it might well be a technical vocational industry sort of expertise and specialism. And it's about, well, what do we do with all of this knowledge and all of this skill to be able to transfer that, if you like, into that teaching and learning environment? And it's not enough just to say, right, I'm an expert in this area, and I'm going to share that now. I'm going to be a teacher. Those teachers amongst us today will know that, yes, you can't replace that wealth of knowledge and experience, but what you also need to do is understand, respect and value the sector you're going to be working in. And I think this is what the qualification is trying to do. Appreciate and value the skills and the knowledge, but also develop those very critical skills of becoming that meaningful, purposeful, experienced teacher. It also provides opportunities, therefore, to acquire a number of practical and technical skills. So it's really going to be expecting the student who's studying for this qualification to be hands-on, to be learning in the FE environment, to be learning from others, but to absolutely appreciate the environment that they're working in, and not just going in to transfer the knowledge that they have, but to transfer the knowledge in a way that's meaningful and purposeful for the individuals, for the young people that they are, and adults that they are working with. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so what's it all about? What's in this level 5? So we know that we had to develop a new level 5 qualification. We know that we had to be and we were very appreciative of the framework that both Chris and I have talked about. So what do we take from what we know worked before in our previous qualification, and what needs to happen? And so what we've done is through this qualification, we've obviously been true to that framework and given things a refresh, and that's not a bad thing at all in any shape or form. But it also has allowed us to look at the optional units that were in our original qualification and think, okay, what was the most popular and why? And how can we reduce this qualification in terms of making sure that we are absolutely honing in on the skills that the teacher needs in this environment that were optional before, but actually there were so many people who took it as an option that it must be critical to the work and the role within teaching and learning. So it gave us time to do that all important reflection, which we never have time for, but which is so critical when you're involved in new development. So these are the units then. So unit 1, teaching my subject. What is it like to actually be a teacher? What does that mean? So there is time in unit 1, even before, and the intention is that this would be whilst a teacher or a student was perhaps shadowing a teacher in their setting, to be able to understand what teaching is all about, to get to raise their confidence and be able to feel that they are part of this new environment, or it could be a new environment for them, especially if they're coming from industry. So teaching my subject is the first one, and that might be something that happens as a sort of in a shadowing role, or maybe dual teaching, for example. Unit 2, and this is what I was talking about before, because I think this is so important. Understand learners in the further education sector, the range of learners, the diversity of need, therefore, and being able to support that need in a purposeful way, so that all of those students have the best possible opportunity and are taught in the way that they deserve to be taught, best experiences from the best teachers. And I think some of the best teaching does go, I'm biased because I've worked in FE, but I think some of the best teaching does go on in that post-16 environment that can make a real difference, where somebody may have had perhaps a negative or not been very happy with their achievement, for example, within the compulsory sector during GCSEs and so on. So the FE sector is very important and can make or break that student's journey. And many people find the world of FE very aspirational as students and the thing that turned their lives around. I hear that many, many times. So understanding learners in the further education sector, critical. We then have Unit 3 that looks at the role of teachers in teaching, because all the teachers on the webinar now will be thinking there's a lot more to it, Janet, than just talking about what's going on within the classroom. And absolutely. So it's really important that teachers, would-be teachers, those students who are doing this level 5 understand that bigger picture and understand that wider expectation and requirement for and responsibility of being a teacher. Nothing more rewarding, but extremely challenging in terms of the breadth and depth of knowledge, understanding and perception that individual needs to have all the time, every day. We then, and I like this one, so I'm just going to pause because I like Unit 4. Now, I like them all, but Unit 4 is around professional practice. And so professional practice portfolio of Unit 4 is really concerned with developing all of those skills. So this is where you will have those observations. This is where you will have all of your schemes of work, your lesson plans, all your session plans and so on. All of that will live in here and will be used as a really strong generation of evidence that's based amongst those practical skills. So Unit 4 is kind of bringing things together, and it could be, when we think about delivery models, it could be something that you think, I'm going to use that as longitudinal because actually I'm going to be developing my understanding of teaching in Unit 1. I'm going to be practicing that and gaining competence and confidence in Unit 2 and 3. And then in Unit 4, I'm actually going to be thinking about how I'm bringing all of that together. So Unit 4 could be something that's almost longitudinal and starts at the beginning and runs all the way through, and meeting that criteria through the internal portfolios and the teaching observations and so on. And it will tell you all about the sort of the different nuances in terms of those observations in the qualification specification, of course. But that professional practice portfolio is the competence side of things, you know. So the theoretical knowledge, absolutely, it's important to know about that and to appreciate that and to prove that you've generated evidence against that. But can you do it? Have you got the evidence to show that you've done that? And this is where that professional practice portfolio really comes into its own. So I like that coherence of theory and practice that Unit 4 allows. Unit 5, something I think that we have got to absolutely say. I was involved in a student conference this morning, and we were talking about the importance of digital skills, the confirmation actually that teaching and learning is now very much involved in the world of technology. And it's very important that we have a unit, therefore, that looks at effective digital and online pedagogy, because this is happening and it's happening more and more. And of course, you know, post-COVID, didn't think I'd be saying that still, but post-COVID, we have, of course, moved forward. We were forced to move forward with technology, and teaching and learning and technology have all sort of been channeled together. And it's so important, I think, that we have the understanding, the knowledge and the skill to be able to apply effective digital and online pedagogies in our practice. And so that's very much part of the core content, and something that has been brought forward from some of the optional units of our current qualification, simply because it's something that all teachers should have in their tool bag now. Because whilst we wouldn't welcome another forced approach to teaching and learning that relies so heavily on technology, we have got to appreciate the role of technology in contemporary teaching and learning, and the benefits of that, and the safe practices and so on that we must follow. And the best way to be able to do that is to know as much as you can about it. So that's why we have got Unit 5. Moving on. So we've also got a range there of optional units, and I believe, you know, you can look at the rules of combination and specification, but it's around 3 optional units I believe that you would excuse me, that you would be taking. So again, this is not just being chosen at random. These optional units have been selected by looking at the data of the optional units that were popular, that were the most preferred. Some of those then we embedded, and we took some of the learning from those most popular optional units, embedded them into the mandatory because they were obviously important for teachers in the environment. And then we looked at the remaining optional units, and the least uptake was either incorporated so that we didn't eliminate anybody who did want to learn about a specific aspect, or we decided, okay, let's take the ones that remain popular, and the ones that no one's taking, let's just put those to an aside, because we can always add more option units to our qualification. But I think it's really important to start with the ones that we know have been the strongest and that have proved themselves in terms of teaching and learning. So we'll just have a quick look at what they are. So Unit 6, developing, using and organising resources in a specialist area. So these are all building on those skills that the teacher needs to have, all of the skills within the teacher's toolkit for delivering an effective pedagogy and effective practice. Action research, so that commitment to always being ahead of the game, always wanting to do things better, improved practice and so on, and making positive change and being an ambassador for that change and a leader of change within the teaching and learning environment, looking at things that might be a challenge or a concern, maybe an area that needs to be or has been expressed as an area for development. And those are the sorts of things that the students can use as part of this qualification through a piece of action research. And that really does push individuals who may not have had the experience at level 5 through a more traditional academic route, such as a degree, for example, but they are ready because of their wealth of knowledge and experience in industry. It just pushes them and brings them online with that level 5-ness, if you like, of the diploma. And I would say that some of these units could be incorporated into the core of the teaching, because there'll be an element of overlap. And as with Unit 4, and the fact that we're thinking of that as being sort of longitudinal, potentially, I mean, the delivery of it would be at your discretion, but action research might also be something that is thought about in those early days, thinking about the sector, thinking about Unit 1 and Unit 2, for example, where you're exploring the needs of the students. You're getting to know your mentor, you're getting to know how your subject area is going to be transferred in terms of knowledge with the students that you have, and thinking about what's going to improve this, what could improve this, and talking and making partnerships with your teacher colleagues to be able to bring forward an area for action research and positive change. So that could also be longitudinal. Thinking about exploring the role of the personal tutor. I think, again, something that we may underestimate for somebody who's new to the world of education, who's bringing something from industry. They may well have been a mentor, but they may not. So the idea of supervising someone else can be very overwhelming. The idea of being a personal tutor very early on in your teaching and learning journey might be something that, it could be really far removed from that individual's comfort zone, but also the fact that we've got to get this right, because the role of the personal tutor can be absolutely critical in terms of the experiences and the success and the achievement of the student. So we are action learning to support development of subject-specific pedagogy, really taking on board your own development and thinking about, you know, how you can improve things for yourself, keeping up to date, those sorts of things. Speaks for itself in lots of ways. Action learning for teaching in a specialist area of disability. So whilst there are going to be, there's a strong element of EDI, equality, diversity and inclusion throughout the core qualification, as there rightly should be. But again, maybe we're looking specifically because this teaching is going to definitely expect and require an element of teaching in a specialist area of disability. And if that's the case, then there's that deeper dive here with Unit 10. Unit 11, understanding the principles and practices of quality assurance. Now, what we've done here is sort of combine, if you like, the optional units that currently exist within the qualification in terms of the internal and the external quality assurance roles, and bring those together to look at what quality assurance is. Now, it's unlikely but possible that a student will be involved heavily in the process of quality assurance, but they will contribute to it because they're part of the team. So knowing a little bit about it is really important. Knowing what the expectations are, how those students will achieve, is so important. And I think sometimes we use the words as maybe jargon, I'll call it, for the sake of it. We might talk about the role of IQA, EQA, and this could be really outside of familiarity in terms of technical terms for the people that we're working with on the level 5. So understanding a little bit about the principles and practices of quality assurance is an option there. And then, of course, again, that EDI is absolutely embedded throughout, and getting to know the diverse needs of students in the FE environment will absolutely take you down the road to a certain point in terms of working with learners for whom English is not their first language. However, if you know that this is something that is an area of real interest or real challenge within the environment that your student is definitely going to be working in, then here's that deeper dive. Here's that extra additional skills package that will help you and support you in this teaching and learning environment. Okay. So, is work industry placement experience necessary? Absolutely, absolutely it is. And the qualification requires learners, I'm just going to read from this with you, to complete a mandatory work or industry placement experience throughout the duration of the qualification before certification. And I made reference earlier on to the observations and the teacher observations that are involved here. And so the minimum required placement hours are 250. And this must include at least 150 hours of teaching practice. Of those, at least 100 must be in the learner's subject area, and a minimum of 20 must be remote. I can't even say that now. Synchronous live. I'm going to go with the bracketed. So remote live delivery. So we are gaining and practicing and applying those skills at online pedagogy, because those have been so important, critical and crucial to the teaching and learning environment that we currently work in. And I think we need to embrace that and move with that and make sure that we are delivering in such a way that is meaningful and purposeful for our students. So that will happen. Alongside a minimum of 80 hours face-to-face delivery. So that traditional role of the teacher now encompasses that remote technological awareness, and that has to be proven and evidence generated. And I think that is becoming part of the traditional role in teaching, and that's something that, of course, we must be appreciative of, move with, and embrace, and make sure that we get that right for those best opportunities. Thank you. So, assessment. We've said a little bit about the assessment, and it absolutely consists of one component, not one piece of work, but one methodology. And that methodology is an internally assessed portfolio of evidence. And that's going to be assessed by you as teachers, it's assessed by centre staff, and externally quality assured by us, by NCFE. You will be involved, just as you always have, in the internal quality assurance of your programme, and it's got to be completed just as it always has been. So, internally assessed portfolio of evidence, range of optional units that are going to back up that core, making sure that that practice portfolio, Unit 4, has captured all of the evidence, has documented all of those teacher-led observations, has captured all of the practical skills that bring this forward. And again, I personally think that is that wraparound that shows I know all about teaching, and look, I can do it. So that's something for us all to think about. So internal quality assurance, external quality assurance by NCFE. So as with, sort of the core principles here, I will just read this to you. So the qualification must be assessed in line with the Education and Training Foundation's framework for teaching in further education. This qualification has been built to appreciate that framework, and you can take a closer look on the ETF website to be able to see that correlation. You can also get in touch with us after this webinar to talk through that, to look at that together, and to ask anything more specific about that. The Professional Practice Portfolio Unit 4 has specific assessment requirements. The learner must complete and evidence all their practice hours as stated. The learner must complete a portfolio of evidence relating to the placements which is submitted to the module assessors. So you're going to be looking and verifying and so on in terms of that content and how that content is relating to the criteria required. Then the best way of doing that is not rushed as a unit, but as a portfolio. And portfolio to me almost gives me the impression that I'm building something up over time. It's almost like, a generation of evidence that's based on the application of theory, and that's exactly how it should be. Thank you. Okay, so the last thing for me to say before I pass back to Chris and then we open up to Q&A is to think about how this qualification has developed in terms of the apprenticeship standard. So it's not mandated. It's not mandated within the level 5 diploma in teaching. However, it's been mapped to that standard. So if you were thinking about how to deliver this qualification, if you wanted that reassurance that it's up to date, not just with the ETF framework, but also with the standard, then we can categorically say that we have mapped 100% to that standard, and it mirrors the outcomes within Learning and Skills Teacher Occupational Standard, and the reference number for that standard is there for you. So there's been quite a lot of information there. I hope you can see and sort of gain a bit of a picture in terms of the content of the qualification, how it's structured and how it might work, and you'll be able, if you're teaching the current qualification now, be able to make some form of comparison. We know what teaching in FE is all about, and perhaps through this framework and this new approach and this refreshing approach, we're able to do so in a more meaningful and purposeful way for the students that we are impacting and influencing every day. I'm going to hand over to Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Just want to kind of touch on the timings here. So the level 5 diploma for education and training, the old qual will be withdrawn, with the last qual for those registrations to take place on the 31st of July. So NCFE continue to lead the way and are proud to be the first awarding organisation to launch this level 5 diploma, giving centres a chance to adapt and plan for their delivery of this great offering. Now, we know that not all award organisations have offered the old qual, have invested time in developing the new qual, so we want to reassure you that NCFE are committed to the education and training sector, and I'm maintaining a good chance to deliver this qualification and this offering. I just want to touch on a couple of things and the benefits of NCFE. We can move on to the next slide, please, Molly. Thank you. So as you already know, you probably already work with us. If you don't, these are some highlights. NCFE are specialists in the education and training sector. We offer high quality service and support, easy contact with email responses within 48 hours. You have a dedicated colleague, account manager such as myself, who can discuss and plan your curriculum needs, as there is a great point of contact if you need anything at all. An EQA is allocated to you within 7 days of learner registration, and all certificate claims are processed within 24 hours, which is really quick. So the price of the qual, it's an important one. So the qualification price, reg and cert fee is £173.50. Now, any customers that are not a centre with NCFE at the moment and are looking to become a centre with NCFE, the initial annual approval fee and costs will be waived. So there is a saving there for any new centres coming on board that plan to deliver this qualification. So a good enticing offer to join us if you're not already working with us. There's also bi-monthly forums with sector specialists where we can discuss best practice, ideas, what's working, and kind of collaborate to make things even better going forward. So if you're not already an approved centre, it's a really, really simple process via our Qual Hub website. You simply search for the qualification, a little bit like Amazon, you add it to your basket, you submit that request, and that will start the process for you to become a required centre, which will trigger an EQA visit. It's a really quick process, nice and easy, and then you can become an approved centre. If you are already a customer with us, this process is very much the same. Again, like Amazon, you search for the qual, you add it to your basket, you submit your centre information, then you're approved within 24 hours. Approval for additional quals for existing customers is really quick. So if you were to apply for approval today, technically, you could be delivering this qual as early as tomorrow. Really easy, really quick. If you've got any questions, myself and Janet can kind of take some questions now by the chat. I think Janet covered everything really well there, but if anything's been missed, feel free to drop some questions in and we can hopefully get those answered for you.
Right, so Rachel's asked, will you be discussing funding streams for the diploma?
Okay, so I think it's important to note, and Chris, I'll come in and then please do jump in. So the funding streams for this, I think in the first instance, I'd probably say talk to your internal leads and within your own organizations. There are different, and the reason I'm saying that is not to fob anybody off, but there are so many different funding streams and so many different diverse routes to funding for this qualification that I think it's important that that happens. Chris, I don't know if you've got anything more helpful or specific.
No, I think that's accurate. We tend as an award organisation, and this is not cop out in any way, to not get involved too directly with funding because we don't have that knowledge. So we'd really refer you to your local funding department to support you with that.
Great, thank you. Claire's asked, is this just for those providers who are accredited to deliver ITT from September 24?
Again, Chris, I'll come in, but please do jump in. So if you've been delivering the level 5 diploma for education and training, so this is about, we have a level 3, there's a level 3 level and level 4, and currently a level 5 in the diploma in education and training suite. And this is about, if you like, it's an alternative to a cert ed if you're thinking about it in that way. So and forgive me if I've not understood the question fully, but this would be for colleges, for providers that are in a position where they're able to deliver that qualification, where they are training staff, if you like, or offering that opportunity to train staff to level 5, and the current, as Chris has said, the current level 5 in education and training is being withdrawn, and from the 1st of September 24 this will be the qualification that students will need to be working towards on that. So I don't think there's a restriction in terms of ITT. Again, this is something that might be tied in with one route of funding. I've got to say I'm not sure, so again speak to your funding specialists, but this is something that would be a direct replacement for the Diploma in Education and Training.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Julia's asked, will you be providing a matrix that maps the LST to the new DIT?
In terms of, that was a lot of acronyms, wasn't it, Chris? So we talking
It was.
Let's just be clear. So are we talking there about the old to the new, or the I think it's the mapping from the standard to the qualification? So maybe if we can just have a verification of that. But what I will say is that we have got, it's not being made public, but we can share the mapping documentation in terms of maybe having bespoke opportunities, and maybe that's something that can go on the website soon, but it's not in a position for that. It's just not in a state ready to do that with, basically. But I'm more than happy to jump on a call with individuals to go through that mapping documentation, and have done already with centres to date. I might have misunderstood the question though, sorry.
We've got a question from Lindsay that asks, are the award in education and training and certificate in education and training being reviewed?
Okay, so at the moment those qualifications are still within our suite, and as with all qualifications they will be up for regular review, but I believe, and it will be something we have to take back, so maybe it's one for us to remember, but I believe that the level 3, the award, and the level 4 will still be available in September 24. I don't know, Chris, if you can challenge me on that.
No, I think you're right. I think they still sit within our suite, and they're still eligible to be registered for learners. So yeah, there's no change to those at present.
Okay, and students that have got those sort of qualifications in the past can still come onto the new level 5, of course, as well.
Thank you. Robert's asked, do the candidates need to have 2 placements reflecting different settings? If so, what would count, and would candidates have to teach in each setting?
There does have to be a range of different placement opportunities, and those are clearly explored in the specification. So what might be useful, sorry, I think you said Robert, didn't you? What might be useful, Robert, is for us to maybe have something bespoke where we go through the specification in detail and look at that particular aspect. So there are some requirements specifically that are related to the types of placement and how that is sort of built up as a generation of evidence as part of Unit 4. I don't want to specify and get it wrong, but I'm more than happy to jump on a call.
Yeah, we've had a few about the 2 placements, so we'll just move on to the next one. Is there any guidance for Unit 1, LO1 and LO5?
Okay, so we'll be providing guidance and indicative content to support with this qualification. And I think, you know, Chris, you mentioned about having the drop-ins and having those bespoke opportunities. Those sorts of things will also become part of that really strong community of practice, where we can have a look at the qualification and we can start thinking about the indicative content as a group of professionals. So absolutely there'll be support available. Yeah.
Thank you. And Rachel's asked, what happens if staff don't routinely deliver online in terms of meeting the 20 hours online delivery?
Okay, so that might be, I mean, they do have to, there has to be, there's a requirement for online teaching and learning. And I guess there are ways around that in terms of exercising technical teaching and learning pedagogies in in a way, so we can think about that and how that might be best, how the skills can be applied in the best possible way that don't threaten the criteria and that do show the commitment to developing knowledge and skills in that area. So I'm sure that's something that we would look on as positively on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. Alison's asked, 250 in total teaching hours, but only 100 hours subject specific. So does that mean that 150 hours need to be in an alternative specialist area? Is this across curriculum areas or in another college?
I think, again, that's something that perhaps we would want to take to something that's dedicated to that Unit 4 and dedicated to the placement side so that we can really explore it. The requirements around placement are different, but they're not complex. So I think we just need to take that and maybe do something separate that just focuses on that Unit 4 rather than this, which is a bit of an umbrella in terms of the outline of the intention of the qualification. But you know, just again, you've got you may have the fact that somebody might be teaching on something that's not their core subject, but they are doing things that align to extracurricular, or they're supporting with one-to-one, or they're doing some study skills. You know, there's a whole range of different things. So we have to explore what's acceptable and what's not, what's mandatory and what's not. And I think that's probably best with a focus group, because I think we could spend a whole hour just looking at that, and maybe that's something that we could do as a follow-up.
Fab. Richard's asked, currently there are 4 tutor and 4 mentor observations over the 2-year DET course. Can you give us an overview of the observation requirements for the new course?
Okay, so again, I'm not fobbing you off. I just think that we need to really take our time and go through the journey of the observations and the placements and the requirements to make sure that we get that right and we focus in on that. So I think on one of the previous slides it talked about the hours and the observations, but when you look at the qualification specification, the details of that will be in there for you to be able to have a look through and to be able to sort of understand, and then to come back with any questions. But I think exploring the placement side of things is obviously something that has become clear to Chris and myself now, is something that we should give more focused attention to, and so it explains and gives us our next steps in this process quite clearly.
We've got a question from Matha that says, is there a specific age range for the students that trainees will be teaching in their placement? E.g., can they deliver to nursery or primary students?
This is for teaching in an FE environment, so they could very well work with early years students, and they could be working with teaching assistant students, but they'd be teaching and learning in a further education environment. So this is not for nursery or primary school teaching.
Mandy's asked, will the EQA be the person from NCFE in some professional discussions, which is a requirement for assessment at the end of the programme? Do we plan our discussions and then let you know when they're taking place?
Okay, so once you have got students registered, excuse me, once you've got students registered on the programme, then that will trigger, I think, Chris, won't it, the allocation of an external quality assurer, and you'll be able to look at the detail around that. What we can't guarantee is that your external quality assurer will be the same person that comes to do other qualifications, because we very carefully allocate skills and experience of the EQA with the qualifications that they are quality assuring for obvious reasons. So we can't guarantee that, but you will definitely have somebody that you can connect with right from the very beginning, and so all of those expectations will be made clear.
We've got a few more questions, but I think what we'll do is we'll cover them in the follow-up email, if that's okay, if you would like to close. Thank you.
Okay.
From my behalf, thank you for everyone for joining. I appreciate your time. My contact information is on the screen. If you want to hear any more about the qual, discuss things further, we can organise a Teams meeting. But thank you for your time from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon. Take care. Thank you.